It's not a silly question if you don't know how to get the value that we wrote down. Never just let something go in your notes that you don't know how we got it. So guys, we literally do the division. Y over X. Over means it's a fraction, and fractions are division. Any other questions about this, how we figured out that it's $15 per yoga class? And I'll be honest, my wife has probably been paying at least 10. So that's not like that out of the realm of possibilities. It might cost $15 to go do a yoga class. It'd be like an hour or an hour and a half, but it might cost $15. So a lot of times we just have a table though. So please copy this table in your notes. Take a moment. I'm going to check the chat and then I'm going to give you guys a moment. Oh, Lacey, you're totally fine. You made it in time to not be sent as part of attendance. Sorry, I just saw your chat about your computer issues. You're good. Guys, remember, we're supposed to have our camera on unless there's a good reason for us not to. And if there is a reason for us not to, you should send that to me in the chat. It's so that I know you're here and I can read your face and figure out if you're struggling at all. So right now, I should essentially see the top of your head or looking back and forth as you write down this table. Now, if you've done your Khan Academy, I'm hoping that you'll jump in and help us solve this, like tell us what to do. Why do I have that arrow above the table? And I want you guys to draw that arrow as well. You can make it a curved arrow if you want. Anyone know why I have that arrow? Yeah, I think some of us have been putting off doing our homework, and that's why we don't quite know this yet. Now, remember, everything we've been working with here and answering questions about tells us that they are proportional. And when it is proportional, that tells us that we're going to have an equation like this, right? Y equals something times X. They tell us in this case, and remember, it doesn't really matter what letters we actually use. They say Y equals R times X. So this R is our constant of proportionality. Sorry that above my 7 there's like some dots. Those aren't doing anything. Guys, our constant of proportionality, Lily?
I did this question, so can I please repeat?
Yeah.
So would it be Y times, not Y, but thing times 5 equals Y?
Yeah, so Y is, and guys, I would like you to also write down the words. Y is, and you could write the words first. Y is some amount times X. This is your constant of proportionality. So what Lily just said is Y is always 5 times the X. So our equation here is Y equals 5X. Because when I look at the table, this Y value is 5 times the X, this Y value is 5 times the X, this Y value is 5 times the X. Now, I've been helping some people in math lab, and like, what if you had a weird number, let's say maybe like, of course we know that our answer here is 5, but what if you had like 13 and 65, and you didn't quite know what multiplication works? The other way that we can find our R, the way that always works. Mia, is that a hand? Yeah, we can just divide the Y by the X. So if we did 65 divided by 13, that would get 5. So the other way, like there's a lot of ways. We can look at the table and look at that multiplication. Or we can do the division of Y divided by X. Does that make sense, Drew? What makes sense? I'm double checking that you're not playing a video game because you wearing one headphone makes me skeptical about what's going on. Well, I mean, you should either just wear both headphones or like, you know what I mean? It made me think you're multitasking. Does it make sense? If you were playing a video game, you might be playing the video game through a headphone and then watching my class. Just make sure we're not multitasking. So,
I was just saying, I don't know if you're just the same thing. I have one ear out because my parents usually talk to me. Sometimes they'll come down and tell me something that they're going to do. So I can hear them because these headphones are sound canceling.
okay. So I get that. I 100% get that. It's not good for your ears. I'm going to tell you guys, it's not good for your ears to only have one headphone in. Our brains listen in stereo and they want to hear things through both ears. Like, I get why you guys are doing that, but it's not good for your ears. And tell your parents you're in class. They can leave you a note on a Post-it or something. You're in class. Try this on your own. We know these quantities are proportional, so we know there will be a constant of proportionality. Guys, if the relationship is not proportional, there is not a constant of proportionality. Remember, I'm calling people at random, and if you look like you're off task, you're a lot more likely to get called on. I would copy down this table so it's in your notes and you have it to reference. It doesn't take you very long to copy a table. You could draw the arrow connecting the X over to the Y and kind of put a question mark there if you want to say what is that multiplication. I like to look at whole numbers as opposed to decimals. So if it was me, I'd probably be looking at the 4 to the 10 or the 10 to the 25. Can I get a Zoom hand of anybody that might want to volunteer to help tell us how do we get from X to Y? And we can draw the arrow beneath the numbers too if we want. But these should be the same actually. So from 4 to 10, that multiplying factor, from 5 to 12, that should be the same. Should be the same as this one too. All of these multiplying factors should be the same. Lacey, what do you think?
Instead of multiplying, for me it was easier to divide, so I just did 10 divided by 4 to get 2.5 or 2 times 10.
Or if you just reduced it down to 5 over 2, you're absolutely right, but we often like the fraction form better. And if we came down here and grabbed the Y and the X, so Lacey, you're absolutely right. I just don't like decimals very much. And guys, I'm going to be honest. When I was a kid, I swore up and down decimals are better. When I was a kid, I'm like, decimals are the best thing in the world. Fractions are more versatile. They're also more precise. So if we set up this division, we also get 5 over 2. Any of those divisions, we get 5 over 2. So we would say our equation then is y equals 5 over 2 times x, or you're absolutely allowed to use the decimal and say y equals 2.5 times x. I just don't like decimals as much. Does anyone have any questions? Sorry, this is an R, right? It's always times that R or that K or whatever we're using. So guys, we switched from using K to using R, and I wanted to do that on purpose because that happens. Like we switch what letter we call the constant of proportionality. I'm going to show you another one, and I'm going to throw you all in breakout rooms really quickly to together agree on what the constant of proportionality is. So before you go to the breakout room, copy down at least a couple of these values. So copy this table. Hopefully at least one person in your breakout room does it. How many people do we have in here today? 18, 17. 17 does not divide evenly. Yeah, we're figuring out the constant of proportionality. So somebody just asked me in the chat, and it might be that you can't see this at the bottom of the screen very well. Sorry, all my little toolbars pop up down there. So it says find the constant of proportionality R in the equation y equals Rx. So for all of these, we're copying the table, And we're being told it is a proportional relationship. So what we know is there is an equation, y equals r times x, and we're solving what that r is because we know the y and the x. Really quickly, I'm seriously only going to give you like 1 minute in the breakout room. Go chat with the people in the breakout room. I feel like some of you are more comfortable telling telling a peer that you don't understand something. I keep trying to go up to breakout room and my toolbar drops away. Go! Ooh, we're almost all back. Can I get a volunteer? Miriam, be careful. I'm going to go ahead and say that's not quite right. Drew, since I was picking on you earlier, it would make sense to come to you. What do you think? Yes, it is 0.1 or 1/10. Guys, check it. The y value is smaller than the x value, right? The y value is less, so when we're saying what multiplication, it's going to be a number less than 1, right? So we have to compare the y to the x, and we see, well, the bottom is 10 times the top. So if the top was 1, the bottom would be 10. So our constant of proportionality is 1/10. So we will say y is 1/10 of x, or you could say y equals 0.1 times x. Questions on that? Or if I gave you this, would you know how to solve it? Great, go in your rooms and solve this. Guys, I'm barely going to give you any time. Hop in your room, and then I'm pulling you almost right back. So it should be asking you to join a room. Those of you who aren't, I'm curious if you're not looking at your computer. And everybody at the same time. What do you think the constant of proportionality is? Unmute and shout it out. 10, right? Because the multiplication going from x to y would be a times 10. If we set up the division, y over x, it would be 30 over 3, which is 10. Make sure you know then that the equation is y equals 10 times x. Any final questions on the tables before we move on? All right, guys. This one also, be careful, y over x. Your temptation here might be to say that it's 3. It's not 3. What is it? It's upside down of that, right? It's 1/3, because 5 over 15 would be 1/3. All right, so then we get into these sorts of questions. And I know my little picture-in-picture down here is blocking a little bit of that table, but it shouldn't matter. I'm sorry, I'm not going to keep that there. The blinking is worse. So which relationships have the same constant of proportionality between y and x as the following graph? Now, guys, this is tougher. This is taking this to like a further point. So I'm going to put you back into the same breakout rooms. And like, there's only probably 2, maybe 3 of you in the room. If neither of you know how to figure it out, that's okay, but I want you guys to have a quick conversation about this. I'm going to give you a little bit more time than before. So, like, I'm going to give you probably 2, maybe 3 minutes in your breakout room, and I'm probably going to pop around through the different rooms. Darn. You can't keep looking at this in the breakout room. So, one of you you guys need to go to Schoology. Let's try this, because this is the only way we can make this work in the future. Go to Schoology right now. Go to the Remote Round 3 folder. Hold up, though. I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to copy this and make it the top slide. So it is now the top slide down here, Math 7 Daily Slides. If I refresh this page, it should be the first slide right there showing up. If you go to slides, you should have this question there to answer. I want you guys to go into your breakout rooms and talk about that. It is in the slides in Remote Round 3 folder. And guys, you're going to need to be in here to take the exit slip here in about 10 minutes. So keep this page open. Keep this tab open. I would click on this and let it open in a new tab, or like right click and do open in a new tab. Or if you click the full screen here, it just jumps to full screen. So remember, you can toggle back and forth the slides. So all right, go talk about it in the rooms.
Y equals 27x. A is 9. B is 18. E is 1. That'd be 9.
Can I ask what you guys are chatting about? I'm just curious. I'm confused, so I'm guessing I missed something. Miriam? What are you chatting about?
I was reading off all the questions, like the A, B, C.
Okay, everyone should be looking at the page in Schoology, though, right? Because we need to be in that Schoology page anyways. So you shouldn't have to read that off. Crap, I copied the wrong slide, too. Well, I really want 2 of them. All right, now I see what's going on. You have to click on it again. The thing that goofed up is going to that link. It looks empty in Schoology. You just, here, I'll show you what you did. And I got to make sure that we're all comfortable on this. When you click on this, it looks empty. If you click down here and full screen it, it will just pop up and full screen it. So if you click on this, you have to click on it again. And actually, no, I set it up wrong, so it actually doesn't work very well. I'm going to pull you guys back together. It's going to be easier that way. All right, we're almost all back. So the thing we have to do here is figure out which ones have matching constant of proportionality. But I'm going to cover up everything else first. Why? What do we need to do with the graph before we move on to looking at our answer choices? And sorry guys, I copied this slide accidentally. We're doing that next. So I'm glad that you guys were talking about that. But we need to talk about this slide first because there's actually a trap door here. The first thing we have to do, since they give us the graph to match, is say, what is the graph constant of proportionality? So again, to answer that, whether we call it R or K or whatever we want, it's the y over the x. So who can tell me a y over x here from a point on the line? The point on that. They give us a point. What is that point? Yeah, so that point would be 8, 6, but when we write it as y over x, you're absolutely right. It would be the y of 6 over the x of 8, which reduces down to what, guys? 3/4. So our constant of proportionality we're trying to match is 3/4. So that's the thing we want to match. Now let's look at just A and B alone. Can anyone tell me something we see right off the bat? B works. Yeah, so B works. We automatically know that B works. What's wrong with A?
It's backwards or upside down. Yeah, that's me and Lacey got it wrong on accident.
It's not necessarily that it's backwards. I like what you're saying. It's not correct. But it's not necessarily backwards. What did we say must be true about our y for us to look at the constant of proportionality? What did we say needs to be true about the y? Natalie? I can't tell if that's a hand or what you're doing. Do you know my answer? Oh, you're good. Sorry, I just looked up and I thought you were raising your hand. What we said about the y is we need to have only one y, right? Which the problem here, and I would put stars around this or something. The problem here is we don't have one y, we have 6y. So to turn 6y into 1y, we can divide by 6 on both sides. Questions on why I just did that? Questions on why I just did that?
I don't really understand. I don't get the whole process.
So what don't you understand? So we want to be able to talk just like we were earlier in a sentence that says our y value is something, right? Our y value is something compared to our x, and y is always going to be some multiplication of x in proportional relationships. So what we're trying to be able to say, and thank you very much for asking that question, is in multiple choice option A, they give us this equation that says 6y is equal to 8 times x. Now that's very confusing because that says 6 times some value of y is equal to 8 times some value of x. So I don't know what to make of that, and that doesn't really help me very much. But what I could do is say, well, if I divide by 6 and divide by 6, then what I can get is a value of y. 1y is equal to, well, 8/6 x. Or you could say 8x divided by 6, but this is kind of the nicer way to write it. And that also then can be rewritten in equation form as y equals, right, instead of saying the words, is equal to 4/3 x, because we can reduce. 8/6 can reduce to 4/3. We could leave it 8/6, but we always want to reduce if we can. And this is not a matching constant of proportionality, because the constant of proportionality we're looking for is 3/4. So since for option A, and all of this is the work for A, right? Since for option A, we end up with the equation y equals 4/3 x, it's not the same as 3/4. It's the reciprocal. Now, if we look at the graph here, the point they give us is a y of 1 and an x of 2. So this graph, which is like a purple graph, so I'm going to write it in purple. So for option C, from that graph, the constant of proportionality, whatever you want to call it, R, K, whatever, is your y over your x, right? Which the y they gave us was 1, the x was 2, is 1/2 equal to 3/4? No. So C wouldn't work either. In option D, look at the table for option D there. Y over x. So the R there, y over x, is 4/3. The dependent over the independent. That doesn't work either because we're trying to equal 3/4. Man, the only one that has worked so far was B. Look at table E. Table E, the R value there, the constant of proportionality, whatever you want to call it, is 3/4. So E does work. E has a matching constant of proportionality because when I put y over x, it becomes 3/4. So Mia, the biggest way that we use the constant of proportionality comes down to pricing, like the first problem we talked about with yoga classes. So this is just doing the math of just the math and no actual situation, like no actual description of what's going on. But these are the sort of situations we're going to get to, and this apparently is going to be what we have to do after break since I'm running out of time today. This is the stuff we're going to talk about, where we see like D is equal to 2 times C. So I'm going to move this over for anyone still taking those notes. So if D is equal to 2 times C, then we look at what is D and what is C. So D, in this case, is the price is equal to 2 times the number of cupcakes. So in this situation, D, the dollars we have to pay, is 2 times the number of cupcakes I buy. So these are the sort of proportional situations that are like the real world applications. Or like, I need to order 3 slices of pizza for each of us. Or like, the PTSA bought everyone in my advisory group like a $10 gift card to Graders, or maybe it was 5 or something, I forget how much it was. But like, these proportional relationships of like how much per one, that's where we use this. So now what I need everybody to do with like the 5-ish minutes I technically have left in class, guys, I normally end class at 45. Today I'm ending my teaching at 45, but what I need you to do is go into the materials folder, go into remote round 3, and complete the proportional relationships exit slip. It has 3 questions. Give an example of a proportional relationship and why it is proportional. In your own words, what is a constant of proportionality? Feel free to give an example if you want. And in this table below, what is your constant of proportionality relating cost to bananas? Pounds of bananas, right? Not per banana. That would be a lot. If it was per banana, that'd be expensive bananas. When you have completed the exit slip, you may leave my Zoom. So if you're still working on it, you should still be in my Zoom. Okay, when you have completed your exit slip is when you may leave my Zoom. You can go ahead and mute your camera if you would like. I don't mind. And if you want to send me questions in chat or whatever, you can, but really I'd like you to try to complete this on your own. And I'm going to stop talking. Oh yeah, this is the last time I'm going to like see you guys before winter break, unless you come to AR Extension. So have a wonderful break. Like, I hope you guys get some downtime and get to relax with your family.
You too, Mr.
Thank you very much. I bought a bunch of firewood and I plan to just sit by a fire for a while.